Why Sony leads in cameras and speakers but failed in smartphones. Before Canon and Nikon even launched their all-new full-frame mirrorless camera systems, I figured they'd have a tough time against the entrenched leader Sony. They needed to be very aggressive with their pricing and features, something neither company tends to do. Let's figure out why Sony leads in cameras and speakers but fails in smartphones. And here we begin. There was a chance both built all-new scratch camera systems to explore and do better with the stellar cameras from the a7 III and a7R III in Sony. Canon's EOS R and EOS RP have been on sale for several months, and Nikon's Z6 and Z7. What is the verdict? Well, loud and transparent has been the market. Sony a7 III is a clear leader in sales, at least in Japan and on the home markets of all of these companies, while Canon and Nikon are falling. So what went wrong? What went wrong? I believe it's a story of Sony's technological superiority after all the cameras were tested and the opportunities lost by its rivals, in particular Canon. Canon had a great chance to introduce photographers taught by Sony's a7 III when talking about the Canon cameras. Its excellent dual-pixel autofocus is in fact superior in many ways to Sony's hybrid face detection system, in particular about the video, and Canon had the opportunity to build a rugged mirrorless camera that handled like its well-regarded DSLRs. Like ergonomics and build quality are some of the few knocks against the a7 III. So what happened? Well, the EOS R was released, and that was a minor catastrophe. Indeed, the new RF mounting system was technically superior on paper and was excellent but expensive to Sony's EF mount. For its broad range of EF lenses, Canon offers 3 optional adapters from $100 to $400. It also constructed a more professional camera with a more oversized meat grip, flip screen, 10-bit external video, and a superior EVF in the camera was more suitable. In other areas, however, it failed severely. The EOS R has cut 4K video 1.8 times, and at that resolution almost turned it into a micro four thirds camera. This eliminates all the advantages of a full frame, such as superior field depth and low light. It is difficult to understand why Canon decided such, but its sensor and processor were probably not up to the task. The lack of in-body stabilization is another major problem, given the body size Canon could have fitted into a friendly in-body 5-axis system. The camera needs a lot, as there are no options for 3 of the best native lenses: RF 50mm f/1.2, RF 85mm f/1.2, and RF 27 to 70mm f/2.0. The Nikon, Canon, and Sony speakers lack the opportunity for their mirrorless cameras to include top-quality video features, cannibalizing professional video divisions. Nikon, however, did not have any such limitations, so I expected to try and outdo Sony with functions such as professional 10-bit 4K video capture. I also wanted good ergonomics, a 24-megapixel sensor, face detection AF, high ISO capacity, and quick fire rates. Why Sony is still winning? Shortly after its release, the Canon EOS R was launched in Tokyo's largest camera store, Map Camera, and beat Sony and Nikon's fully mirrorless image products. Nevertheless, according to BCN, Sony outsold Nikon and Canon combined in Japan shortly after and last quarter. The sales of cameras are affected by all sorts of factors, including market saturation, with 4 fully reflected mirrorless systems, better smartphone cameras, and more. However, I think that Sony still defeats its primary opponents for some reason. First off, Canon did not do enough. Who had the best chance of unseating Sony? There are no features in the EOS R and then the EOS RP, like in-body stabilization, full-frame 4K video, and dual card slots are necessary. As Sony is the player with 2 high-quality camera models, a7 III and a7R III, Canon ought to have tried to overcome it. They haven't even come near. Both robust cameras are Nikon and the Z7, in particular the Z6. In addition, Nikon has recently released a firmware update that enhances AF speed and accuracy by adding eye autofocus to both cameras. But sadly, Sony's autofocus is ahead of both Nikon and Canon, as many reviewers discovered. Sony has an enormous advantage in building its sensors and electronics and in designing autofocus software. It is painful to see no full-frame 4K, terrible rolling shutter, and slow autofocus speed behind Canon sensors and processors. Even Nikon could not build an autofocus system near what Sony has and did his best to fit the features for the a7 III and a7R III. Nevertheless, Sony continues to innovate, as demonstrated by the unprecedented new autofocus system on the APS-C A6400. This system will appear on its a7 IV cameras of the next generation, ahead of their rivals. Sony's next generation cameras are also required to respond to its competitors. Canon and Nikon have failed to overcome Sony with their latest models and are in danger of falling further behind the next generation of a7 cameras. If you can find a way to stay in the technical race, you will be left to fight the scraps of Sony in an ever-shrinking camera market. Now let's talk about why Sony's phones failed. You're pretty sure that Sony would be the market leader in the upcoming mobile technology if you ever used Walkman players or Xperia telephones from Sony in old times. Sony was the fourth largest manufacturer of mobile phones. At the beginning of 2010, the X10 was released. It was the first of Xperia's operating systems with Android, where previous models were running on the Windows Mobile OS. The telephone was widely commended for its design. The story of Sony's entry into the phone market starts with an Ericsson partnership in 2001 to 2002. They continued to focus on innovation with this. One of Sony's innovations was the 2-megapixel, 5-megapixel camera, the colored screen digital camera, etc. However, the Walkman series was the biggest hit. Sony printed money with these new features in the Walkman series, so all of us became fans of Sony from young to old. The iPhone is, without a doubt, one of the century's most significant innovations. The iPhone was launched by Steve Jobs on the 9th of January 2007, and the iPhone was transformed. But for businesses like Microsoft, Sony, etc., this wasn't good. Now let's talk about these reasons then. Firstly, it is expensive. The price tag for Sony's phones is undoubtedly a significant flaw. Sony tried literally to rival Apple. However, the problem was that Apple had a competitive advantage over other producers as a market leader. In addition, no different user experience on the phone was great with iPhones from Apple. Other telephones focused on budget telephones at this point. They planned to get as many customers as possible at the cost of high features, even if they were. But the opposite was chosen by Sony. So you began to make premium phones, but they couldn't compete with iPhones and began to lose the market. Secondly, there was no innovation or USPs. Whether it's a colored screen or digital camera, Sony, Walkman, or Ericsson's phones had multiple innovations, but when they started making Android phones, their creation slowed down. The X10 has been praised for its design, for example, but its downturn was Android 1.6 when competitors were already at 2.1. Moreover, due to the heavily skinned OS, the firmware update was significantly delayed. Other companies were gradually offering the same features as Sony at a lower price. They were trying to add new features like a 4K screen, but it was useless, as it doesn't matter in a 6-inch 4K screen. Sony continued to make expensive phones that had no critical difference factor, so they went out of the market gradually. The third is the no target segment. The Walkman series focused primarily on young people, but later, when making a smartphone, they forgot to target a particular segment. Every Sony competitor has specific target clients. Some of them focus on customers with a low budget. Some concentrate on camera fans, as others focus on better screens and cameras. But Sony does not seem to have concern with a specific customer. You only make phones and experiment with them at a random price. Sony had camera USPs, music, but they certainly missed that chance. And fourth is slow to adopt to trends. Many businesses that do not innovate follow market trends. They make phones at a lower price and spend the money on research and development. This trend was also not understood by Sony. So far, they have large bezels on their phones. Sony was too late for two camera phones to bring in, but all big companies are surprisingly buying Sony image sensors. All other companies such as Huawei, Samsung, and Apple make excellent cameras, but Sony, despite having USB in the camera, was surprisingly unable to make large camera phones. Sony's Bravia TVs are genuinely fantastic. Perhaps nobody can compete on their displays, but on smartphones, Samsung creates the best screens. Amazing, sort of. And finally, it didn't make a meaningful partnership. Ericsson's partnership worked smoothly. However, in 2012, Sony acquired Ericsson shares. In the United States, the association was not good. Users in the US buy contract telephones, and many companies in the US advertise for other companies for customers to purchase phones on contract. Sony did not try to do all the advertising on its own because of a no-good partnership. However, as the profits of Sony decreased, they were unable to make their advertising. They left Southern Asia, West Asia, South America, and focused on their core market. The situation was so wrong. Do you think Sony should be in the market or shouldn't go into downfall? Let us know your views in the comments section, and until the next video, stay tuned and subscribe to our channel for more. We'll see you soon.